What if I told you guys that Vince McMahon now wants to push new WWE superstars to the forefront on Monday Night Raw? Would you believe the story? Or would you, like me, look at it and say, that is complete bullshit? Because that's exactly what I'm feeling right now, because that's exactly what I'm looking at. Reportedly, Vince McMahon now wants to push new WWE superstars to the forefront. But it was on Monday Night Raw where we seen the Big Show main eventing on Monday Night Raw in 2020, but he wants to push new WWE superstars. This is a classic case of doing one thing and saying another. And he better do something, because Monday Night Raw and SmackDown right now are drawing the worst ratings in the history of both programs, so much so that Fox and USA Network are now losing patience. How does one fix Monday Night Raw? Do I have the answers? The answer is no to that question. I don't have the answers on how to fix Monday Night Raw. We're going to try and talk about it today on the podcast. Also, Seth Rollins did something on Monday Night Raw that the commentary team did not bring to anybody's attention. Broke a record on Monday Night Raw that did not warrant a reaction from WWE management. What was it? We'll go over that as well. How would you guys feel about WWE bringing back the Nation of Domination? I think that's a terrible idea, but some people in WWE want it. The majority in WWE do not want it. What is the plan right now for the return of the Nation of Domination? Also, Edge and Daniel Bryan have full creative control over both of their characters, but does that mean they are on the WWE creative team? We're going to go over all this right here on episode 336. This is part number 2 for your Saturday, July 25th, 2020. This is Off the Script.
Delete! This is mine.
So I'm browsing my Twitter page, and I posted a bunch of shit earlier in the morning. Something about baseball. I'm glad that Atlanta Braves baseball was back on Friday. I got my MLB network actually on in the living room right now, so that when I do take some breaks recording this podcast, I could go out to the living room and sit down and watch the Braves and Mets. I don't know what the score is right now because I'm here obviously recording. But I'm glad baseball's back. I mentioned something about I'm happy about Atlanta Braves baseball being back. I mentioned something about Vince McMahon pushing new superstars on Monday Night Raw, but he's got main eventing Monday Night Raw, the Big Show. And then I retweeted something from AEW. AEW is getting everybody very excited for Wednesday's episode of Dynamite. And we are looking at a TNT Championship match that a lot of people are very much looking forward to, with Cody Rhodes defending the TNT Championship against an unknown. And this unknown is one of the biggest independent wrestlers right now, making a name for himself on the indies. And his name is Warhorse. I never heard of him before. I don't know anything about Warhorse. I said so on social media. I said so, I believe, when I came on here and did Dynamite. I don't know if it was last week or the week before that, but it was teased. I didn't know anything about this guy named Warhorse. I watched a documentary, a 10-minute documentary on him right before I hit record. And man, oh man, I could see this guy becoming my favorite pro wrestler. Honestly, I look at Warhorse, and you're not going to believe the first thing that I thought about when I thought of Warhorse. He's awesome. His theme song on the indies, I believe, was the Four Horsemen by Metallica off their Kill 'Em All album. I mean, you can't get any more awesome than that. I mean, that's my favorite Metallica song. But the first thing I thought about, and you're going to think I'm fucking crazy. The first thing that I thought about when I looked and I heard and I seen Warhorse in his element. When I looked at Warhorse speak, cut a promo, do his thing, mannerisms and all, I swear to God, man, if you take Warhorse and you stand him next to BC Amplified, and if BC Amplified was a pro wrestler, he would be flat out Warhorse. I'm laughing, I'm like, holy shit, it's BC. It's BC in pro wrestler form. It's fucking hilarious, man. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, and I'm going to be keeping a keen eye. And again, you know, people talked about Eddie Kingston. People talked about Ricky Starks. He got a contract. I don't know if Eddie Kingston's going to get an AEW contract. I could see Warhorse absolutely getting an AEW contract, and I could see big things from him. I really do. That's going to be a very interesting showcase on Wednesday. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that as we talk Dynamite next week. But thank you guys so very much for joining me right here on the podcast. This is Off the Script, episode 336, part number 2 for your Saturday, July 25th, 2020. Thank you guys so much for joining me here again. If you missed my podcast yesterday, a lot of people were saying it was an unbelievable rant. Some people listened to it multiple times. Booker T and Naomi, that situation this week, and I gave one scathing rant on why Booker T is an absolute clown. So if you guys want somebody that's going to stick up and defend Naomi in this situation, look no further than what I said on the show yesterday. Go and check it out. Also, we rant about Vince McMahon wanting fans back in attendance in September. We all know that, but Vince thinks the ratings are something that nobody should be concerned about because he feels that they're going to go back up and go back to normal in September. September is the start of the NFL season. September will house MLB, NBA, and the NHL with abbreviated season/playoffs happening. But he thinks people are going to opt to watch WWE. People right now are sick of WWE. People right now have missed for 5 months so much what is going on in the world of sports. And WWE has let them down for 5 months. What do you think people are going to want to go out there and watch? Are they going to watch The Big Show and Randy Orton in the main event of Monday Night Raw in 2020? Are they going to watch a rehashed storyline with Seth Rollins that we seen last year? Or are they going to watch something that's actually a little bit more important, a little bit more enjoyable? It's not going to be WWE. So if you guys missed my rants on that, one in the beginning, one at the end, go and check that out. Link is down below in the description. And I want to thank everybody for showing your support on yesterday's podcast. Today, man, we got a loaded show again, and it's going to be a good one. So hang tight, grab yourself a cold beverage. It's going to get dirty and ugly right here on Off the Script. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. If you guys missed my SmackDown review and Off the Script, like I said, links are down below in the description. The appropriate playlists are there. Go and check all of that out. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible, audibletrial.com/offthescript. I mentioned Audible on Wednesday when I did Dynamite. Audible's been with me for the duration of this podcast, man. They were legitimately my first sponsorship/affiliation for any type of money coming in from sponsors. And they've been with me, and they will continue to be with me, and I love them, and I thank them for that. And if you guys want to help out the podcast, you guys can sign up using our link, audibletrial.com/offthescript. I knew nothing about anything when I started the podcast, but Audible was always there for me. So audibletrial.com/offthescript will get you a 30-day trial of their service, one free audiobook of your choice, and the best part is you don't even have to sign up and stay with them. You could sign up and cancel immediately. Now, some people have opted to stay with them. Some people have just signed up and immediately canceled. But either way, you get to keep that audiobook for free. And no matter what you're doing, running errands, doing grocery shopping, taking a shower, laying in bed, you can't sleep, turn on an audiobook. Audiobooks are the thing. Podcasts are the thing people are going to nowadays. So if you guys want to support Audible, support Off the Script, audibletrial.com/offthescript. Thank you guys so much for that. Patreon is always there for you as well if you want to support the podcast in other ways. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. And again, anything that you missed on the channel, go and check down below. I got a ton of content this week, man. Some extras, some off-the-script extras there. I got another one going up on Sunday. You don't want to miss that one. Talk about Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. We're going to talk about a follow-up on Tessa Blanchard, major WrestleMania main event news, SummerSlam news. I got it all. AJ Styles burying Paul Heyman again. That's going up on Sunday, man, so keep an eye out for that. Tons of content on the channel like only JD and Off the Script can do. Let's go to the news here, man. Let's go at the top here. Fox and USA Network growing very impatient with WWE's declining ratings. I'm not surprised by this story. In fact, I didn't even show any emotion when I read this story and seen the headline in the dirt sheets. Why would I? Why would I? Now, Vince McMahon is obviously saying something, saying one thing, and then completely doing something different. Now, according to Vince McMahon, it's been stated that he wants to push new superstars on Monday Night Raw, and I'm assuming SmackDown, because why would he do one and not the other? I'm assuming he wants to push new superstars on Raw and on SmackDown. Since Paul Heyman was removed from his position, plenty of plans were nixed, completely canceled, or changed around. NXT call-ups were left in limbo. Dominik Dijakovic left in limbo. Vanessa Bourne, I got word, was supposed to be a Paul Heyman project on Monday Night Raw. She hasn't seen the light of day on Monday or Friday night. He was actually brought back down to NXT, was Dijakovic, for another NXT run. I'm assuming that he's eventually going to be brought up. And why wouldn't Monday Night Raw want a Dominik Dijakovic? From what we've seen on NXT, Karrion Kross pretty much killed him on NXT television. So what else is there for him to do down in NXT? I don't think there's much left to do. Unless he's going to play a factor SummerSlam weekend in that match with Keith Lee and Karrion Kross for the NXT Championship. Maybe he's in one of the triple threat matches. But after that murdering, that slaughtering on NXT, I don't think he's going to be competing for anything. In fact, I think he's getting called up to the main roster. When? I don't know. How? I don't know. That's up to WWE. Either way, it'll probably be very unceremonious in his call-up. Or what I call a demotion for Dominik Dijakovic. Now, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that despite Vince McMahon saying he wants to push new superstars, he's obviously doing something much different. Dave Meltzer even said, what is notable is that Vince McMahon actually said, since Mania is over, and with a lot of guys missing due to COVID and other reasons, that this is the time where they have to make new stars, which seems to contradict most of everything that he's doing on creative side of Raw and SmackDown. He wants to push new superstars. But Big Show is in the main event of Monday Night Raw. But Edge and Randy Orton is the number one storyline on Monday Night Raw. Guys like Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo. Guys like that. Buddy Murphy, Austin Theory, Angel Garza, Andrade, the Viking Raiders, Cedric Alexander, Ricochet. Look at all the talent you have on the show. Look at Ali. Guys had one match all year, which was Monday. Mustafa fucking Ali, one match all year. No, but your main program is Edge versus Randy Orton with the Big Show and Christian thrown about. Then you got Dolph Ziggler challenging for the WWE Championship. But Vince McMahon wants to push new stars, though. He obviously is doing something else and telling somebody, whether it's Meltzer or somebody in his fucking camp of goons, maybe he's telling this to the shareholders. Oh, we're pushing new stars. Because that's exactly what they should be doing, and they're not. Nobody's watching. Nobody's watching. Your actions have driven away so many people from this product. It's not even funny. It really is not even funny anymore. I have no more laughter to give you guys as far as what I think of the WWE product. I'm genuinely concerned that the ratings are going to get lower. I said it yesterday. 1.6 is what Monday Night Raw is averaging right now. With all the sports making their return, going into September with NFL season starting, you may be looking at 1.3s, 1.4s, maybe even lower than that. Now you're really reaching into the Impact levels when Impact was run by Bischoff and Hogan. That's pretty damn bad. That's fucking terrible. AEW and NXT collectively, combined, are going to be getting more overall viewers on Wednesday night than Monday Night Raw is on Monday at 3 hours. How would Vince McMahon feel at the end of the day when he looks at the ratings and says, oh man, Monday Night Raw ratings are 1.3. We got our developmental brand, because that's exactly what you think of when you think NXT in the eyes of Vince McMahon. They're a developmental brand. Vince McMahon doesn't give a fuck about NXT. When has Vince McMahon ever given a shit about NXT? NXT was simply put on Wednesday night to take away from AEW. He didn't give a fuck if NXT succeeded or failed. NXT is there as a shield to deflect AEW. And if you don't think that's the case, you are as dumb as I think you are. That's exactly why they're there on Wednesday night. AEW, how would he feel if AEW and their developmental brand, you know, those guys that operate out of the gym over there in Full Sail University, getting more total viewers than Monday Night Raw, the flagship show in all of this business? People aspire and dream and hope to be on Monday Night Raw. How would he feel? Would he be one to say, oh, the ratings don't matter, the ratings will be fine? I'm not concerned about the ratings. Maybe we should get the ratings down to a 1.3. Maybe then some change will happen. But him wanting to push new superstars is not what's happening. And I don't see that happening. This is Vince McMahon we're talking about. Given the fact that Brock Lesnar was rumored to come back to the WWE, I don't give this guy any fucking benefit of the doubt to push new superstars. Give me a break. So Meltzer says that Vince wants to create new stars, which seems to contradict everything that has been reported. Didn't Paul Heyman want to do this very same thing? Wasn't Paul Heyman fired for his particular vision, and that particular vision wasn't working? So now you want to do what Paul Heyman set out to do and take it and run with it as your own. That's what I'm seeing. So why was Paul Heyman fired? Maybe going back to the AJ Styles situation, Vince McMahon is no dummy. Maybe there were a lot of people that we don't know of that felt the same way AJ Styles did, and Vince McMahon really didn't fire him because of the vision or the ratings going down on Monday Night Raw, the vision, like I said, that he had for Monday Night Raw. Maybe it was because you had a lot of other people in the company who have some stroke there, didn't like Heyman in that position, and Vince is a guy that can read between the lines, and he needed to remove the cancer that was Paul Heyman. But I don't think Paul Heyman was removed for whatever creative vision he had. He was operating as a puppet, right under Vince McMahon's nose. Paul Heyman might have had some influence in something here or there. Let's push Apollo, let's do this with this guy, let's bring up this guy from NXT, let's push the Street Profits, etc., etc. We got Buddy Murphy, we got Austin Theory, blah, 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 blah. Now he wants to do the same thing that Paul Heyman had originally set out to do. So what was it? So why aren't you doing that now? Why have we seen you deviate away from that? Why is the big show in the main event on Monday Night Raw in 2020? Why do we got Christian on Monday Night Raw in a main event in 2020? Why is Ric Flair back on television? Why did you bring these particular names back? Do you want to push new superstars, or do you want to push established superstars in hopes that they generate rating? Because your plan obviously ain't working. Now, what you should have did was build consistent television. I don't understand. You know, a lot of people, they will make the excuse over there in Stamford at Titan Tower. Oh, it's difficult to write 3 hours of television. It's difficult to write 3 hours of television. Why don't you think about where you want to go with a particular storyline or storylines and come up with an ending or a conclusion for what you're building right now? And then you work your way backwards. It would be a lot easier. You got to have an end goal to wherever you want these storylines to go, right? Garza and Andrade possibly win the tag team titles. What is Seth Rollins' end goal here in the WWE? Seth Rollins is operating as if he's a broken record time and time and time again. It's just on repeat. You put your favorite album on shuffle and on repeat. That's exactly what Seth Rollins is. It's over and over, the same shit. There's no end goal in sight. Why do you think anybody watching the show is going to be interested in Seth Rollins? Doing the same thing over and over again. Fighting the same guys every single week, whether it's Kevin Owens. We've seen it already. How many times? How many times? Drew McIntyre's first feud out of WrestleMania was Seth Rollins. We've seen it. How many times? 2 years before that. How much do you think that match is going to give off a vibe of importance to the people watching when they've seen it already? Rollins versus Aleister Black. Rollins versus Humberto. Rollins versus Aleister Black with Theory, or Aleister Black, right, with Humberto, or a mixture of any guy that he's teaming up with, the Viking Raiders, the Street Profits, whatever the fucking case may be, with Theory. 1 week he's teaming with Theory. 1 week he's teaming with Murphy. Same shit over and over and over again. I don't understand how you think anybody is going to be interested in that. At this point, when people see that on their televisions, they will reach for the remote control and go watch something else. You're doing the same thing over and over again with no further storylines pushed on television. You're not advancing anything. You're advancing my fucking boredom, but you ain't advancing the storyline. Drew McIntyre's another one. You failed to build credible fucking heels on this show because you buried everybody at the same fucking time. And the only person you were left to feud Dolph Ziggler or Drew McIntyre with was Dolph Ziggler. Who could possibly want that? The only other heel on this show worthy of even being in the ring or being in the same breath with Drew McIntyre is Randy Orton. And the only other guy besides Randy Orton is in fucking Saskatchewan. Part-time. Making $10 million a year for 25 dates. That's the only other guy you got. You don't wake up and show up to work every fucking day and think that? Are you okay with that? How could you be okay with that? I know if that's me, I'm coming to work and I'm like, bro, we got to fix this. We got to fix this right now. SmackDown is a completely different story. You got 2 hours over there. 2 hours of SmackDown, and it's just as bad as 3 hours of Raw. How is that possible? That show should be easier to book and write every single week, and you failed to do so. You failed to do so. You got AJ Styles as the Intercontinental Champion. Great. A good creative decision. We still don't have an explanation as to why Sami Zayn is quote-unquote injured, or where Sami Zayn is, why you stripped him of the fucking championship. But we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. He's not going to be out forever. I'm sure he's thinking he wants to, so El Generico can show up on Dynamite. No explanation. AJ Styles is the Intercontinental Champion. Then you got Daniel Bryan. Then you got Matt Riddle. Drew Gulak. Got some nice guys there in the mid-card. Matt Riddle suffered his first loss on SmackDown. I don't necessarily agree with that, because all WWE did was start him off hot, establish him against Styles. Styles just won the IC title. He didn't need to lose his first match out of that tournament after winning the championship just to establish Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle could have established himself against anybody. It didn't need to be AJ Styles. Matt Riddle could have showed off against anybody. It didn't need to be AJ Styles. You gave us a SummerSlam Intercontinental Championship match away. You gave it to us for free on night one. Then we see it again 2 weeks after that. So before SummerSlam, we've seen Matt Riddle and AJ Styles twice on SmackDown. And neither match did anything for anybody. Riddle, Styles, or the viewer at home. And then you opt to book Baron Corbin in the feud. And that's where Matt Riddle is now officially starting on SmackDown. So what you did with Matt Riddle, you pretty much wiped away with his loss on SmackDown. And now he's feuding with Baron Corbin, who should have been the first guy out of the gate to feud with Matt Riddle. Because the story was there. I'm not sure if you realize that, but the story is there. Corbin eliminated Riddle in the Survivor Series. Corbin eliminated Riddle in the Royal Rumble. It's right there. But I don't realize, or I don't expect you guys to realize, the backstory just dating back to October, November. And then again in January of this year. That should have been where Matt Riddle started off. Then you got Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. Nobody gives a shit about this anymore. In fact, you're degrading Jeff Hardy, a fan favorite, and people are just leaving the show. They're not watching the show. It's not generating any interest. You're making people sick. You're making people feel embarrassed by watching this garbage. Now we got a bar fight that happened last night on SmackDown. Week after week after week after week. What do you think people are going to think? It's just treading the same thing over and over again. Then you got Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt in the main event. Nobody gives a shit about that. Braun Strowman is a fucking shell of his former self. Bray Wyatt is absolutely hanging on to a thread. He's hanging on to fucking dental floss at this goddamn point. Hanging on a string. Any slight movement, this guy and his career as The Fiend is dead. If not already. You already fucked him over once. Then you fucked him over in Saudi. How many times do you think The Fiend, no matter how menacing he looks, how many times do you think he can come back to life and just be normal again? You even ruined that. You never give WWE something that is great. More times than not, they will kill it. Just go back to last year's SummerSlam. Bray Wyatt doesn't even feel the same. Looking at the current version we see now in 2020. Bray Wyatt was one must-see act in all of WWE. Everybody was intrigued. The entrance fucking was the highlight. An entrance was the highlight of SummerSlam last year. When has the Firefly Funhouse ever been a highlight on SmackDown after the debacle in Hell in a Cell and then in Saudi? I'll wait. I'll be here all night. Bray Wyatt is dead. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they do as far as him feuding with somebody on the show, Bray Wyatt is dead. His career is dead. I don't expect the shill to say that, but Bray Wyatt's career is dead, champion or not. Because what happens when he wins the championship? Does he have anybody to feud with? Right now, I don't see anybody. And what happens when he is the champion? He's eventually going to have to lose. Who is he going to lose it to? They'll probably put it right back on Roman when the time is right. And then after that, what's left for The Fiend? He's already been two-time Universal Champion. You can't get any higher than that. Maybe you move back over to Monday Night Raw to feud with some new folk over there. Who's going to give a shit at that point? Look at the current state of WWE television. Look at the current state of WWE television. I didn't even mention the Raw Women's Division. It's being held up right now by Banks and Bayley and Asuka. Ruby Riott and Bianca Belair have finally had some part of the show. But the women's divisions on Raw and SmackDown are a complete fucking disaster. WWE does not care about women's wrestling. They only care about women's wrestling when it comes to Charlotte Flair. In some cases, Alexa Bliss. In this case, because they don't have Becky, they don't got Alexa doing anything of importance now, and Charlotte is out getting elective surgery, they have no choice but to push Banks and Bayley. Otherwise, who do they have? Nobody that they care to push. The women's division is an absolute fucking disaster. Don't get me started on the women's tag team championships. They're a complete fucking disaster in their own right since day one. As soon as you put those titles on the Iconics at WrestleMania, they were worthless. Banks and Bayley have made the tag team championships at least a little bit more important because of what they have going on internally with their storyline. They're not making the tag team titles important by defending them or by wrestling with them and putting them on the line on Raw or on SmackDown. There's no teams to defend those titles against. The Kabuki Warriors, no more. Kairi Sane's off back to Japan, finally. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, we've seen it how many fucking times? Give me a break. Who else is there in that division to feud with? Nobody. You might as well burn them at this point. You might as well burn them completely. And at that point, I wouldn't even piss on the ashes to save whatever fucking gold is in those championships. Tag team division on the men's side on Raw and SmackDown, absolutely non-existent. Non-existent. Find me one positive on both Raw and SmackDown in the tag team division. There is none. There is none. In fact, if I'm WWE, I'm taking September and I'm hitting the biggest reset button humanly possible, known to mankind, that WWE has ever seen. I'm reshuffling these rosters. I'm merging the tag team divisions on Raw and SmackDown. I'm merging the women's divisions into one. There's no need for 2 women's championships. There's no need for 2 tag team championships. There's no need. There's no need. Instead of giving us a brand-to-brand invitational, WWE should consolidate all that they have so that it plays within the rules. Both shows get a little bit of each. You got the Raw and SmackDown women's divisions merged. You got the Raw and SmackDown men's tag team divisions merged. That means everybody that's on the Raw side can now compete on both shows. Same thing goes for the women. You don't need to come up with these silly rules that make no sense. These silly rules that by now, after a month and a half of them being instituted, have now gone ignored. There's no explanation for anything. Yet WWE thinks the ratings are going to go back up. I have no notes on this. I have no notes on this. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, I read nothing off my screen. This is all off the top of the head. This is from my eyes and what I watched on the show to you right now in front of this microphone and in front of this camera. If I can remember that, if I can remember all that, and I could make a conversation about all that, why isn't WWE doing the same thing? Why isn't WWE doing the same thing? Fox and USA Network are probably shitting their pants. We spent $1 billion on WWE programming, and we are not getting any return on our investment. None. None. The ratings are the lowest they've ever been, and this is according to Ringside News. Ringside News exclusively reported that the company is scrambling backstage, or talked about this yesterday, scrambling backstage at Raw to make Vince McMahon happy. To just get a script written and a format for the show that Vince McMahon is happy with. To please Vince McMahon. At what point are you going to please me? At what point are you going to please the viewing audience at home? Why are we pleasing Vince McMahon? Vince McMahon is working for us. Vince McMahon should be working for the fans. I don't know what he's working for. He's working for his own pocket. That's all he gives a shit about. When Vince McMahon starts losing money, then that's the point he'll start caring about us. Because right now, he doesn't need us. He hasn't needed us for a very long time. Now with Fox giving him $1 billion, USA Network giving him $1 billion, Saudis giving him fucking $600 million to have absolutely just garbage shows over there. What does he need us for? He doesn't need us at all. He doesn't need us for the next 5 years at least, until those Fox and USA Network contracts are up. They're making more money now than they've ever in their entire career or their entire history. WWE. Ringside News has learned that the story is Fox and USA Network are okay with waiting for people to come back into arenas is bullshit. They've learned that the story going around about Fox and USA Network being okay and waiting for people to come back into the arenas is bullshit. Bullshit. Because the more we start seeing things come back to television, whether there's fans or not, it gives us a sense of normality. It gives us a sense of going back to what we remember. And if everything is slowly moving forward and WWE is moving backwards, they do not have a leg to stand on when it comes to the ratings. Their ratings should have been up over the last 5 years during this era, during this pandemic empty arena era. And they have gone backwards. You think Fox and USA Network are going to sit there and be okay with the backwards mentality of WWE here? They're getting worse, and everything else now is getting started up in the world of sports. When MLB and the NBA and NFL start breaking record ratings on TV, and the WWE is still losing viewers because of their shit product mixed with those sports being on TV, are Fox and USA Network going to think that WWE is the juggernaut that Vince McMahon shilled them to be? I don't think so. Something's going to be done. I don't know if WWE will be canceled. They certainly will not be canceled on Monday night. Monday Night Raw, no matter how terrible it is still the number one rated show on USA Network. They are going nowhere on USA Network. Fox is a different story. Fox doesn't need WWE. Fox only signed WWE because they wanted consistent programming for 52 weeks, knowing that this sport's going to end and then we got to wait a couple of months for something else to start up. They want the WWE in that slot as consistent 52-week-a-year television. But who wants 52-week-a-year television when the ratings aren't doing anything for them? They're losing out in the demographics. Monday Night Raw lost the 18 to 34 women's demographic on Monday night. AEW beat them out. Raw and SmackDown were down in that demographic. AEW beat Raw and SmackDown in the 18 to 34 women's demographic. How is that possible? How is that possible? You got the likes of Bayley and Sasha Banks on Monday Night Raw, yet AEW is beating Monday Night Raw and SmackDown in the women's demographic? Now, that might not be an important demo to you or an important statistic to you, but I'm sure it's very important to the Fox executives looking at all the numbers, because it's only showing WWE getting worse. So the story of them being patient and the story of them saying, well, when fans come back, it'll be all right, is bullshit, says Ringside News. It was previously thought that bringing fans back to arenas will encourage more viewers at home. Ringside News were told that both Fox and USA have lost patience with these low numbers. Additionally, the return of Monday Night Football is making them worry about this situation. Monday Night Football absolutely slaughters WWE when the season starts. If Monday Night Raw, and I said this today and I said it again yesterday, if Monday Night Raw ratings are 1.6 now, when football starts, are we looking at 1.2s? Are we looking at below 1 ratings for Raw? That's a scary situation. That's a scary situation. I never would have imagined seeing Monday Night Raw, as long as I am alive, that low as far as ratings go. NFL usually takes a huge chunk out of WWE's viewership anyway. It's creating a situation in the company where their networks aren't happy with the current numbers, and WWE right now isn't doing anything to fix the problem. They're concerned about what's to come. Now, it was never stated that the networks are going to cancel Raw or SmackDown. Like I mentioned, USA is not going to cancel Monday Night Raw. Still the highest rated show on that network. SmackDown is a different story. Fox is a different story. Fox thought that they were going to get WWE and we were going to, and us as fans thought we were going to get one of two things, or both. One, we thought we were going to get Monday Night Raw being the show that pushes the young talent. We haven't gotten that. SmackDown was going to be the show where things are going to feel a little bit more real, a little bit more realistic, a little bit more adult-like, being that they're on a major network and NFL's going to be promoting them and all their major sports on that network is going to be supporting WWE. And who wants to watch some kiddie bullshit pro wrestling? They want to watch a serious sport. We all felt or thought that WWE was going to take a turn and become somewhat like UFC. That's somewhat semi-serious. We haven't gotten that in the least at all. We all thought that the ratings were going to be about a 3. Being on a major network, everybody gets basic fucking cable. Fox, everybody. It's in how many fucking households? And they're generating a 1.7 rating? None of those things that I mentioned are happening. None. WWE just refuses to do anything about fixing any of their shows. Now, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? I don't know. I usually have all the answers. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how you fix Raw and how you fix SmackDown. I've said it in the past, and I'm not even talking about current version of NXT. Current version of NXT is a little mix of NXT back from what I remember, mixed with main roster influence for sure. I don't know where that main roster influence is coming from, whether it's coming from Vince McMahon or Brian James, Road Dogg, or Triple H, or Shawn Michaels, or a collective of everybody. This is not how NXT operated, or at least I don't remember NXT operating like what we see now. Normally at 1 hour, when we watch NXT, it was serious, it was realistic, consistent, storylines mattered. It was all in the storytelling. Something happened on 1 week, they go back and make sense of it 2 months prior to that. Things continued to build over and over and over again. There was always a push to create new stars. There was always an importance put on new superstars. I don't see that on NXT anymore. NXT right now is in competition with AEW, and they got to give now to compete with AEW. The current model of NXT isn't what I remember it to be, and I'm not really in love with what NXT is doing anymore. Maybe that'll change with TakeOver 30, SummerSlam weekend. I'm fully expecting that show to be an absolute banger of a show. But normally I would sit here and tell you what I would do to fix Monday Night Raw. I don't have any answers. Now, when NXT was in its prime, 2017, 2018, when we seen the height of Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, Ricochet, Aleister Black, the Viking Raiders, right? All of that happening there. That's what I remember being the height of NXT. The one thing that we felt when we watched NXT was how consistent it was. It was consistent. They built week after week, month after month to generate interest, to get you ready for a takeover. To get you ready for a takeover that happens once every quarter. 5 times is the most we would see a takeover happen on NXT. And because of that pay-per-view schedule, the fact that they had a reduced pay-per-view schedule, the fact that they did the 5 or 6 takeovers per year, made their shows feel more important. Made everything else feel important. Made titles feel important. It's a trickle-down effect. Made the roster feel important. Gave the roster something to fight for. Made the championships that much more important. It let the storylines breathe, going in from one takeover, ending that takeover, beginning a new set of TV tapings, going into the next set of tapings for the build to the next takeover. And you got 3 months in between. Everything built. Everything was allowed to just sit there and just breathe. You weren't suffocated with 3 weeks of television, then a pay-per-view. 3 weeks of television, Saudi show. 2 weeks of television, and then a regular WWE pay-per-view. Things mattered. We didn't go into a War Games pay-per-view with 2 weeks of build. We went into a War Games pay-per-view that was given 3 months to build coming out of SummerSlam. Rosters being set up for War Games, whoever else you want to put in there. Feuds happening at War Games would play out over television to build intrigue for the pay-per-view. Consistency. Consistency was quality over quantity. If there's one thing I would say about how to change Monday Night Raw, how to change SmackDown, it's that the current model of WWE is not working. The current model of WWE is completely overwhelming. There's too much of it. We're not allowed to miss WWE. Every single time there's something, WWE on a Tuesday, NXT's happening on Wednesday for 2 hours. Coming out of NXT, we got SmackDown at 2 hours on Friday. Then we got The Bump. Then we got Main Event. Then we got Superstars. Then we got Raw. Then we got a pay-per-view. There's so much WWE content during 205 Live. There's so much WWE content during the week. And there's so much during a 1 month span for WWE programming that it's just too much. How could you develop actual intrigue or actual care for a individual superstar if there's so many things going on? You can't. The current WWE model has got to go. The one thing I will say that WWE needs to change is the way that they currently are operating. They're not even a major player on pay-per-view anymore. What is the point? What is the point of 12 to 15 pay-per-views per year? And I'm including the Saudi shows because that's just the state of the game right now. Now, we're not going to see Saudi shows in 2020 because nobody's traveling over there due to what's going on in the world today. But in a good normal year, that's what you get. You get one pay-per-view per month. Then you get 2 Saudi shows in the year. It's 14 fucking shows. It was more than that the year before that because we got an evolution. 15 shows. How could you find any importance in anything going on when you got 15 pay-per-views to build towards? How important are those shows going to be? Not much. They're not going to be very important at all. If WWE had the Royal Rumble, and then WrestleMania, and then King of the Ring, or something in between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, I prefer King of the Ring. King of the Ring. Bash at the Beach, whatever the fuck you want to do. Great American Bash, whatever the fuck you want to do. King of the Ring. SummerSlam. And then Survivor Series in November. Rumble in January, WrestleMania in April, or March, wherever. King of the Ring in June. SummerSlam in August. And Survivor Series in November. And what WWE could do in the meantime, in between those shows, to subsidize what they're doing with the pay-per-view schedule, minusing pay-per-views. Have special events on the network on a Saturday, away from a takeover, whether it be a Great American Bash or a Starrcade or a Halloween Havoc or something. Come up with something in between. So if you're going to have Royal Rumble in January and then WrestleMania in April, if you want to do something at the end of February as a special on the WWE Network and have it be a enhanced version of Monday Night Raw, then that's what they should do. They shouldn't even have to go and do that. You could do that on Raw itself. The less amount of pay-per-views. If you have 5 or 6 pay-per-views in the year, you're going to make Monday Night Raw that much more important. You're going to make SmackDown that much more important. I don't understand how people don't grasp that concept in WWE. They haven't grasped it. And I don't want to hear that it doesn't work. Or I don't want to hear that they're losing money. If WWE took away these pay-per-views that mean absolutely nothing, if they went back to the original Big Five model, how much money are they going to be losing? Seriously. Things are going to change from this point moving forward. They're not going to ever get back to the attendances that they used to get for these shows. How many people are actually going to show up to these shows? How many people are going to want to go out there and attend a live show in the next couple of years? Nobody knows. Why are you banking on that to become a thing that goes back to normal? What WWE should do is alter its entire model so that pay-per-views mean something, and then when you subtract from the overall pay-per-view calendar, you're going to make Monday night and Friday night feel that much more bigger. You're not going to be giving away these big matches on a fucking nothing pay-per-view like Extreme Rules or a Backlash. It's going to be safe for Monday Night Raw. Imagine something like Sasha Banks and Asuka in this big match that they had at Extreme Rules happening on Monday Night Raw. Imagine Randy Orton versus Edge on a Monday Night Raw happening the way it did at Backlash. Imagine. Just imagine. Or it doesn't even have to be that. It could be anything. Legitimately, it could be anything. Seth Rollins challenging Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Something. Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt on SmackDown for the WWE Universal Championship. People will go out of their way to watch these shows if there is less pay-per-views on the calendar. And don't tell me it doesn't work, because NXT obviously has showed you it's the best model for WWE to do. NXT had perfected the model that I'm talking about. So I don't want to hear one single person tell me that it wouldn't work with the main roster. There's no need for 12 to 15 pay-per-views per year. They're making more money hand over fist now than ever before in the history of this company. For you to take away a Backlash or a Hell in a Cell or a fucking TLC pay-per-view, that means absolutely nothing. Nothing. You would do yourself so much more in the end by doing what I'm telling you right now. Shows will have meaning. These pay-per-views will have meaning. The Royal Rumble will have meaning. King of the Ring will give you an unbelievable bridge from June till August. Your entire TV schedule with the King of the Ring pay-per-view is set. From WrestleMania till June, your entire TV schedule is set. You rest your worries on building a tournament and have it be a round-robin tournament. Have fun with it. Do the same thing you did this year, or last year rather, when Corbin won it. 32 guys. 16 guys on each side. I don't really understand the lack of care or emotion that goes into anything. It's just, oh, we'll do it because we have to. WWE doesn't do anything because they want to. They don't do anything on television because it's great television. They don't want to create great television. They create television because they have to. Half of those people take this job as a chore. The people writing this job take it as a chore. Just get whatever to Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon doesn't even take it serious anymore. But he doesn't realize how many people he's losing. How many people on that roster don't want to be there? How much money he really is losing? How many viewers, ratings are going down or leaving? He doesn't understand it. He doesn't grasp it. That's all I could say on how I would fix Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Consistency. Telling stories. Developing divisions. Women's division, combined. Tag team division, combined. No more 2 teams on one show and 3 teams on the other. Those aren't divisions. It's a fucking joke. Merge the divisions. SmackDown's women's roster right now has Dana Brooke, Naomi, Lacey Evans, and Tamina Snuka. That's not what I call a division. Carmella's off doing something. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. Not like she was a big deal in the division anyway. WWE doesn't have a division when it comes to women's wrestling and when it comes to tag team wrestling. Their women's division consists of Charlotte Flair. Now she's not there. Their women's division consisted of Becky Lynch. Now she's not there. Now their women's division is being held up by Sasha Banks and Bayley. They should operate every single week with the thought of, what if we didn't have Sasha Banks or Bayley? What would you do then? Who would be the next in line? Who would be the next woman they want featured on that show? And if you don't tell me Bianca Belair, you, my friend, do not have a knack for talent. You don't know what you're doing. WWE is right now in a position to do everything they need to do to get things right, and they refuse to do it. The divisions and separating divisions, men's, women's, tag team, mid-card, cruiserweight, whatever you want to talk about it, there should be a heavyweight division and guys in that certain division, that certain echelon of top-tier WWE programming. Then you got your mid-card, whether it's the U.S. title or the Intercontinental Championship. Then you got your tag team. Then you got your women's division. Once you could do that and separate people and put people where they go, like a fucking puzzle, things are going to be so much smoother for WWE television. I don't see how no one in this company grasps that. Why isn't that being done? Why isn't there a focus on wins and losses? Why does Dolph Ziggler come over from SmackDown and get put on Monday Night Raw and then immediately get a WWE Championship match? All that's doing is highlighting the fact that you don't have any heels on that show. So you're resulting in Dolph Ziggler getting a WWE title shot? You're resting your pay-per-view build on Dolph Ziggler getting a WWE Championship match. All that tells me is, man, oh man, there's nobody for Drew. His title reign is becoming a complete joke. How could you go and book television like that and be happy with yourself? Why isn't there a wins and losses or importance on wins and losses on television? Why does Garza and Andrade have to lose on television against the Street Profits going into SummerSlam? We are 3 weeks away from SummerSlam. And your number one contenders, who beat the Viking Raiders, the only other team in the division, by the way, twice. And they lost in a non-title match to the tag team champions. If they lost a non-title match to the tag team champions, being number one contenders, what makes you think a viewer is going to look at Andrade and Garza as worthy for another championship? I don't. I'm no idiot either. There are a bunch of people that are not going to look at that as a serious thing, but that right there is instance number one out of a fucking million. How they insult your intelligence. Wins and losses need to matter. And that goes back into the boat of consistency. There's no fucking consistency on this show. There's no explanation for anything on this show. They just do. And then they expect us, or me, or you, to come up with our own explanations as to why. But we never get the official confirmation to anything as to why something is happening. What is the fucking stance on rematch after rematch after rematch on this show? You had a Monday Night Raw booked as night of rematches or something like that. A night of grudge matches. All that tells me is, oh man, I've seen all 3 hours of this already. There's no point in me watching this show now. I've seen this, if not once, 6 times already. Now, I'm not blaming the creative writing team, because I know it rests on Vince McMahon, but Jesus fucking Christ! Has anything I said here not made sense? If it didn't make sense, I'd quit tomorrow. And I will not be doing that. Because I know if you put me in a boardroom with Vince McMahon and the rest of fucking creative, and they were actual human beings, and not a bunch of fucking scumbags, I'd show them this video. There's so much here that I've already stated that you can't argue with me. You can't refute me. You can't do anything to argue what I've stated here. The entire aspect of WWE television needs to change. From the theme music on Monday and Friday night, which is fucking terrible. When I hear Monday Night Raw's theme song, I legitimately cringe. My skin fucking crawled, and I am not over-exaggerating. Skillet and Legendary is for fucking pussies. It is fucking terrible. If I want a theme song for a show to actually matter, I'm gonna go out there and do something that's fucking legit and real. Stop catering to this fucking pussy-like audience. Why is NXT so over with everybody, or at least was? When you got a band like Slipknot backing your music track, and somebody hears that, oh man, that's fucking great. The music, the theme music, adds to the intensity of the show. It gives you a feel of how real and intense the show is. When I listen to Legendary by Skillet, I don't get anything but, man, this show fucking sucks. This is not appealing to my age range. That is terrible. Same thing on SmackDown. AC/DC, are you ready for what? Am I ready? Am I ready to fall asleep in 30 minutes watching this show? Yeah, absolutely. Am I ready to be frustrated by terrible fucking creative? Absolutely. It's like they troll you. It's like they did it on purpose. Are you ready for what? The commentary team is fucking terrible. The same old voice every single week. Michael Cole, Michael Cole, Michael Cole. Michael Cole's been there 22 fucking years. 22 years. How many times can you listen to Michael Cole and get excited about the WWE programming? How many times can you listen to the commentary team sound like fucking androids? Nothing is real. There's no personality there. The commentary team is just as important as the fucking referee. The referee is just as important as the ring announcer. These people are vital to the overall program. And I get no satisfaction from any one of them. It's gotten a little bit better with Samoa Joe being there. But even him and the things that he says sometimes are mind-boggling to me. It is absolutely baffling. I gotta hear Samoa Joe shill the Iconics. I gotta hear Samoa Joe shill for Seth Rollins. Wasn't this guy in a feud with Seth Rollins 6 months ago? The commentary team sucks. Corey Graves, he doesn't feel the same. Byron Saxton? How does anybody listen to Byron Saxton and get excited about WWE programming? They don't sound real. They don't give you any real interpretation about what is happening in the ring. None. They're constantly being fed lines, and then they got to regurgitate those lines to us sitting at home, knowing that the lines are coming from Vince McMahon. Shilling fucking pay-per-view names, the horror show, the greatest match, the greatest wrestling match ever. It's not real. People listen to that. They listen to you spew your own narrative and agenda. And they just turn the other cheek. Because they can't stand to listen to it. When I hear a commentary team act like that, I'm not going to want to watch the rest of the show. I want somebody that's going to be fucking real with me, heart to heart. Look me in the eye through the camera, and tell me everything is going to be all right. I want them to tell me exactly what's going on. We don't get anything like that. This is why I appreciate AEW's commentary team so much. When you got Tony Schiavone sitting over there telling me Jon Moxley's home because he was being cautious about COVID because Renee Young, his wife, got COVID. Or Excalibur saying the reason why this person's not there or that person's not there is because COVID. And we're happy that you are welcoming us into your household because of COVID right now and the pandemic. Meanwhile, when I watch WWE TV, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You wouldn't realize you're in a fucking pandemic or not. Everything is just normal. Meanwhile, I could see and hear it's not normal. Things need to change. Everything about the WWE product needs to fucking change. Doesn't feel edgy. Raw does not feel edgy whatsoever. It doesn't feel important. When was the last time Monday Night Raw felt important? Feels like another show that just exists in the long line of shows. Like I said, they write these shows to basically fill 3 hours of television because they have to, because they're obligated to by USA Network in their contract. It's not like they're enjoying what they're doing. Not because they want to put on a show, not because they want you to care, or care for the talent, or care for the story. They just do, because they have to. The show on Monday and the show on Friday are fucking terrible. Terrible. You should have already been focusing on younger talent. The Andrades of the world, and the Garzas of the world, and the Humbertos, and the Aleister Black. Don't get me started on Aleister Black. This guy should have been a fucking world champion by now with the amount of time he's been on the roster. How you can fucking fuck these guys up is absolutely mind-boggling to me. You genuinely don't know what you have on your roster. And then when their contracts are up, you're going to beg them to stay, promising them something different. And the only reason why you're begging them to stay is because you don't want them to go somewhere else and be more successful than they could have ever been in WWE. So whose agenda are you looking out for? Whose best interest are you looking out for? A guy like Aleister Black? Or your show? Just knowing that you got Aleister Black on the show is all you give a shit about. You should be giving a shit about booking Aleister Black to be the next big thing in your company. How you have someone like Ricochet on your show and he's belittled to a point where he's in boy shorts and he's just an ordinary individual. You shield this guy as a superhero. His superhero story ended when he left NXT. He was killed in NXT. On that last day, his heart fucking died. There's nothing that could be done to save Ricochet on Monday Night Raw. Nothing. Nothing. I will never look at Ricochet the same ever again. This company does one thing and one thing only. If you have any sort of buzz around you, or if you have any hype around you, if you're the next big thing in WWE, and with someone like Black or someone like Ricochet, who came from the outside and want to aspire to be a big WWE superstar, you will never achieve that. The likelihood of that happening is very, very slim. Very slim. They don't want any outsiders coming into their company. That's where the mentality needs to change. Because everybody that you have employed right now is legitimately an outsider. All the homegrown guys, all the company guys, are the guys that are the veterans on the roster. And how long do you think they're going to be around? A guy like Ricochet came into the WWE wanting to main event WrestleMania. He will never main event WrestleMania as long as Vince McMahon is alive and breathing. If you made it on the outside, you will never make it on the inside. Never. And that goes for anybody. That goes for anybody in any promotion. It could be MLW, it could be fucking Ring of Honor, it could be my boys in HOG. And I'll be the same fucking person no matter who goes to the main roster. I will have your back till death. Because I know it's not your fault. But I expect everybody to be smart enough and stop and think before you do anything. The money is obviously going to be speaking to you. Please come. Please come. We will give you a lifetime of riches. But when you get there, the lifetime of riches, how is that going to make you happy here? In your heart. It's not. Ricochet can shill whatever he wants to shill on a 365 documentary. He could brag about, oh my God, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, and this and that. I know this is a constantly changing business. Blow me. Blow me. How is someone like me more knowledgeable in knowing how the company operates than someone like a guy like that? If I was given the chance to go to WWE, I would absolutely say no. They would eat me alive. They would eat me alive. I would cease to exist. Cease to exist. Knowing what I see on television. Knowing how I view the product. Why would I ever go and do that? Everybody that listens to me, if you're a pro wrestler on the indies now listening to me, knowing what I'm saying is true, why would you go? Why would you do that to yourself? This is why AEW exists. This is why we need to support independent wrestling and these smaller promotions. WWE is not the end-all, be-all. The end-all, be-all for anybody should be when you're fully 100% content and happy here. Not because your fucking wallet is content. Why would I give a shit about my wallet being content when I know I'm working for people that don't give a rat's ass about anything concerning me? Ricochet has it on his resume now that he's a WWE superstar. Oh, I was in a WrestleMania. Good for you. Good for you. How do you think the fan feels about you, knowing that you're a shell of your former self and nowhere near reaching the potential we know you should be at? Company needs to fucking change. That change happens when Vince is gone. I don't care in what manner he's gone, whether he's pushed out of office, if he's removed, if he can't do it anymore, if he develops Alzheimer's or dementia and gets locked away somewhere, or if he drops dead right at the feet of Kevin Dunn. I don't give a shit what happens to Vince McMahon as long as he and his influence is nowhere seen, felt, or heard on that actual product. None. That is the only way this shit changes. And how soon before Vince fires Bruce Pritchard? He's in charge of both shows, supposedly. But we all know he's nothing but a cocksucker and a ball tickler to Vince McMahon. When Vince's left nut is itchy, he'll be right there waiting to scratch it. How long before Vince gets rid of Bruce? How long before Vince looks himself in the mirror and has nobody else to fire? How soon before Vince starts blaming himself for everything? If what I said here doesn't resonate with you, then I don't know where any of your ideals lie in pro wrestling. I wrote nothing. I have bullet points here about whatever I wanted to talk about. I told people that I was going to talk about this today. I said nothing. Said nothing as far as writing a script for this. This is all off the top of my head. This is all coming from the heart. I want WWE to be better. Everything around it seems to be growing. Everything around it seems to be trying to get better and produce great content. I know if I ever produced anything and I look back at it and said, it didn't matter. That shit sucked. I would look back at that and I would feel terrible. I would feel like a failure. How do you think these people look back on what's going on right now in the last 3 years of WWE? How do you think they feel? Some of the performers, you think they feel good? You think they feel good about what they're doing? Or happy to be a part of a show that right now is critically shit on in all aspects of pro wrestling? I know I don't want to be a part of that. I want everything, or I would want everything to do, or everything that I do to matter. I would legitimately want everything to have some sort of meaning. And I can't find one instance in the last 3 years that I look at when I watch WWE programming and hang my hat on. The entire pay-per-view model needs to change. I guarantee you. You model yourself after what NXT did, and I guarantee you, you give it a year. It may be longer than that because Vince creates, or Triple H creates and Vince kills. Vince doesn't create anything. Triple H creates and Vince kills. You give it a year plus. It's going to be a while. With every week, the ratings go down. You're losing more and more people. And by default, when you start losing people more and more and more over the weeks, you're just adding more time onto fixing it. You give it a year. You give it 2 years. And I guarantee you, if you model yourself after what NXT did, I guarantee you, things will feel better. You will see it. You will know it. You will see WWE physically turn a corner that you haven't seen at all in the last 3 or 4 years. They have to do what is right for the company, what is right for these shows. Otherwise, we may be looking at a WWE that potentially could be moved off Fox to FS1. We could have a new time slot for SmackDown. Monday Night Raw needs to be shaved down to 2 hours. The excitement of WWE has dwindled into nothing. And my love and my passion for the product every single week, I can't even begin to tell you. If it wasn't for what I do here, I would not be watching WWE programming. There would not be an Off the Script. There would not be a JD. There would not be a YouTube channel. The only reason why I exist is because I love it so much. I love it so much that I would do anything to see it change. And the fact that I don't see them changing because they want to, it hurts my heart. It really does. Continuing on here with the rest of the news, guys. WWE is continuing to pitch new ideas to keep Kairi Sane on their payroll. Why? Why are you wanting Kairi Sane on your payroll when you've done nothing with her? She hasn't factored into anything important on Monday Night Raw. Why would you want to keep her on your payroll? Oh, that's right. You want to keep her away from other promotions. That's right. Promotions that are not going to do anything to you. They have no bearing on what you do. But you want to keep Kairi Sane away from those other promotions. All I see here is you want Kairi Sane to suffer by staying in America, keeping her away from her husband, and not having her close to her family in Japan. For what? Your own personal games. Do you fucking think WWE gives a shit about Kairi Sane? I don't think so. The people on Monday Night Raw like Sasha and Bayley, they give a shit about Kairi Sane. I would guarantee you, I would bet my life savings that Sasha and Bayley both wanted Kairi Sane to go over on Monday. Because they wanted it. They care about Kairi Sane. WWE does not. Fightful is trying hard to keep Kairi Sane around and keep her away from other companies. There you go. SRS said it himself. Just was part of both episodes that the company taped on Monday, so this coming Monday will be her last episode with WWE. Kairi is set for next Monday's Raw. They weren't told, Fightful, what the role for her would be. Both episodes have since been filmed. WWE has made a big effort to retain Kairi and pitched several ideas to keep her on the payroll and more specifically away from other companies. Many of these ideas included her returning to Japan to work in a variety of capacities, from an ambassador to a trainer. Now, WWE clearly wants to get a bigger influence in Japan. I figured that's what Kairi Sane would do if she stayed with the WWE in a non-wrestling role. As a trainer, there were rumors of NXT Japan starting up. I think those rumors are now dead and gone, for now at least. I don't know what Kairi Sane is going to do on Monday night, and I don't know what the result of the match is going to be with Asuka and Sasha Banks. I was going to say Shayna. I had Shayna on the mind. Asuka and Shayna Baszler. That realistically should be, or should have been, your SummerSlam match. I was going to say maybe Kairi is someone that walks in front of Shayna's wrath. Maybe if the Asuka finally confirms that she's the Raw Women's Champion, maybe Shayna Baszler comes out and attacks Kairi Sane so brutally that she goes back to Japan. And that's the end. That's her final episode of Monday Night Raw. I don't know what else it could be. If Asuka retains the title, because she's not really, well, Sasha's not really the champion. If Asuka retains the title against Sasha Banks, they're clearly going to have to move in another direction with Asuka for SummerSlam. She's going to need a new opponent. How do you kickstart a Shayna Baszler-Asuka feud? Kairi Sane. Can't get any better than that. Maybe that's the role for her on Monday night. We shall see. MVP is in talks for a new WWE contract extension. MVP's been a very good player, a very good asset for Monday Night Raw. Whatever he's doing with Bobby Lashley is working. I think Bobby Lashley looks better now than he's ever looked in WWE with MVP. Now, I don't care to see MVP in the ring. I don't care to see MVP as United States champion. But MVP has played a very good role. So WWE needs MVP on television because with him there, it makes whatever segment he's in feel a little bit more important. And he makes Bobby Lashley feel a little bit more important. MVP's return to WWE was originally intended to be a producer role. Coming out of the Royal Rumble, he was supposed to be a producer in WWE. But MVP found his way to television. A couple of matches on TV led to him being on TV permanently. The Hurt Business grew in a big way this week with the addition of Shelton Benjamin. There are also rumors that a revamped version of the Nation of Domination could be on the way as well. The leader of the Hurt Business could be sticking around for a lot longer. While speaking with the Gorilla Position podcast, MVP revealed that WWE is so pleased with his performance that they are working on a longer contract for him. He says, and I quote, "It went so well that I was invited to San Antonio the night next for Monday Night Raw. And I was given an opportunity to wrestle Rey Mysterio, who's my son's favorite wrestler, and then I was offered a job as a producer, which I accepted because I had the intention of retiring anyway." The San Antonio date was the following night after the Royal Rumble, if you guys were a little bit confused by that. So he was invited to San Antonio the next night for Monday Night Raw, coming out of the Royal Rumble. So he was supposed to be a producer. He had intentions of retiring. And I was working as a producer, and then I was asked to do an on-screen VIP lounge, and then I was asked to do a short match, and another on-screen segment, and another, and another, and another. And before I knew it, my responsibilities as a producer became less and less, and I was asked to do more and more as a talent. And now I can say that the WWE and myself are in negotiations for a long-term deal. If you got something good, keep it. If you got something good in MVP, then he deserves to be on television. And he's knocked it out of the park. Normally, I would shit. Normally, first of all, I'm going to be completely blunt with you guys. I hated MVP on television. When I seen that they were using him in a wrestler capacity, this guy's got to go off television. When I seen him doing nothing but VIP segments, get him off the television. Now that he's actually an advocate for Bobby Lashley, you can consider him the Black Paul Heyman to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's playing the monster character, and MVP's playing his advocate. It's great. It works. And if it's working, go ahead and build on it. So I think he does deserve a contract extension. He's lived up to his fucking name. He's been a VIP for Monday Night Raw. Why not reward him? I'm fine with that. Speaking about the Nation of Domination, WWE had plans to give the group new life. WWE was thinking about doing a new version of the Nation of Domination, but now maybe not, as there's been some pushback to restarting the group. WrestlingNews.co first reported months ago about plans to have MVP lead a stable of Bobby Lashley and others added to the group. The names that were discussed included Apollo Crews and Shelton Benjamin. This week, Benjamin was added, and there's been talk of having Crews turn heel as far as back as February when he was still on SmackDown. Dave Meltzer wrote in this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter that Ron Simmons and his appearance on Monday Night Raw was supposed to set up and kickstart this angle, and they also had plans to bring in Mark Henry as well. It's not clear if the Nation of Domination reboot is still happening or not, or if it's been dropped, because there are people in the company who have expressed concern about doing this angle because it would be incredibly tone deaf considering what is going on in the country today. There are a lot of people who want the angle nixed, but of course it's all up to Vince McMahon. If it's in the hands of Vince McMahon, and we all know the most tone deaf person in that company is Vince McMahon, he's probably going to go and do what he wants to do. I think it would be a terrible idea. I really don't want to see any of those guys put in that type of situation in that type of light. They're fine the way that they are. Give them a new name, have them continue to build upon what they've built upon now, make them into a dominating stable, and move on. There's no reason to go back and rehash an old group. That fit the time there. This is not going to fit the time now. Yeah, the proper guys involved with that there. That worked. Ron Simmons played his role perfectly. Mark Henry played his role perfectly. The Rock, when they added him, it made him the guy he is today. D'Lo Brown, everything worked. It's not going to work today. All it's going to do is upset people, and all it's going to do is make people think back to the original group and how the new group does not stand up at all, does not hold a candle to the old group. Why would you put these guys in a situation where they will never live up to the original faction? Never mind what the world climate is today. Everybody knows that it's a terrible idea. But with these guys on television, why would you want to put them in a situation where they will never live up to the original group? I think Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and whomever else you want to add to that group deserves a lot better. Just goes to show you the lack of WWE creativity when it comes to writing Monday Night Raw. The lack of care on Monday Night Raw is at an all-time high. There's no explanations for anything. Aleister Black had gone almost 18 months without losing a singles match in WWE. That is until Seth Rollins defeated him clean on Monday Night Raw. Now, it's hard to believe, being that it was 18 months, but it's been well over a year since WWE decided to pluck Aleister Black from NXT and include him on the main roster. Black emerged from NXT, and that was the same time that Ricochet did. The two of them worked as a tag team together across all three brands before splitting up and placed on separate shows after WrestleMania 35. WWE made it clear from then on that it wanted fans to know Black was somebody special. When was Black ever special on WWE television? I can't remember one instance at all. There were even rumors that Vince McMahon was a big fan of the former NXT champion. Black started to pick up quick-fire wins against enhancement talent on SmackDown each week. He didn't lose a match of any sort for almost a year after his main roster run started. So, moving forward here, Black hadn't lost a singles match on any brand for well over a year until Monday. Black was pinned by Seth Rollins on Raw, bringing the curtain down on this very impressive streak. The last time Black lost a singles match before that on any brand was when Tommaso Ciampa defeated him in an NXT title match at TakeOver Phoenix. Black actually lost to AJ Styles on Monday Night Raw during WrestleMania, right before WrestleMania, building to the Undertaker match that didn't really end up being a match. It was a boneyard match, cinematic match. But it wasn't even a one-on-one match with just Styles. It was 3 consecutive one-on-one matches with Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and then finished off with AJ Styles. So he ran the club gauntlet, and he was pinned by AJ Styles. Looking back at that, you gave him a loss for no reason to build to something that was already building itself. Black was not needed. Unless you were going to include Black in the Undertaker Styles build, or the match, or like I pitched, bring Kane back with the Undertaker to team with Aleister Black against the Club at WrestleMania. That didn't make any sense for him to lose that gauntlet match or that fucking Club gauntlet match that they had on Monday night. So never mind the Tommaso Ciampa match. He actually lost on Monday Night Raw to AJ Styles in a series of one-on-one matches. But before that, he had to go against 2 other guys before Styles beat him. Nobody looks back at that, though. I remember that very vividly. The loss happened on January 26th with Tommaso Ciampa, which means Black was homing in on 18 months unbeaten in one-on-one singles matches until Raw. But NXT means something to WWE. If NXT meant something to WWE, NXT and their statistics and what these people do in NXT before they get called up to the main roster would actually be integrated into the show. So when you want to say to me that Vince McMahon cares about NXT, or you want to listen to Triple H shill NXT, oh, Vince McMahon is the biggest fan that I know of NXT. Bullshit. Because if he was, then a statistic like that, which is pretty fucking big, for someone to go undefeated in WWE for 18 months, not be mentioned on Raw? Vince couldn't give a single shit about NXT. An impressive streak, considering the number of matches Black won when he first got to SmackDown. A streak WWE seemed to be aware of. They had to be aware of it, but did they mention it? No. Of course they were aware of it because they booked him to lose on Monday Night Raw. There was no mention of Rollins getting the 1-2-3 on Monday night. Again, anything that happens on that show, you get no explanation. No explanation whatsoever. It is fucking disgusting. If they gave you a little bit more backstory or a little bit more insight on what's going on legitimately, why this is happening, why he said this, what does he mean, stats like that, that makes the overall product a little bit more interesting. Oh man, Aleister Black didn't lose for 18 months. That's a pretty big fucking deal. Now, one single peep that Aleister Black lost his first match in 18 months. Give me a break. SummerSlam's main event is now confirmed. Dave Meltzer confirmed on the Wrestling Observer Radio that the original plan for Raw this week was to set up the SummerSlam main event. And the match is scheduled to be Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. He says this, and I quote, "They were going to shoot a Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton SummerSlam angle on Raw Monday. I presume it was taped for the second show. That was taped for next week. I don't know that as a fact because I was told in the afternoon that the angle taping is still on, but it could have been for a second show that they did, but not on Monday because they are doing Drew versus Dolph in the title rematch next week. Why, I don't know. I don't know anybody listening to me or anybody, if you're one of the very few watching this fucking show on Monday, with the ratings going to a second lowest of all time. The show did 1.63 million on Monday, by the way. 1.63 million. That is the second lowest rating in the show's history. But Vince thinks the ratings are going to go up. That's what happens when you have a bad pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was a fucking legitimate horror show. So how much interest in WWE programming coming out of something like that you'd think there's going to be? Sometimes when the pay-per-view was so bad, the rating for Monday would actually go up because people were intrigued to see what WWE was going to do or say about the fucking terrible pay-per-view from the night before. They didn't even get that. They didn't even get that this week with Raw. Now, why is Dolph Ziggler getting a championship match? I don't know. Who watching this show is interested in another Dolph Ziggler-Drew McIntyre match? The answer is zero. Zero people. How could WWE have the balls to book something that they know legitimately doesn't make sense? This match in itself is insulting to the audience intelligence. Dolph Ziggler made a big deal about a stipulation going into the Extreme Rules. Ha ha ha, I'm not going to show you anything I'm doing. I'm not going to unveil my stipulation until the night of the pay-per-view, right before the bell rings. So the stipulation was an Extreme Rules match for Dolph Ziggler only. Drew McIntyre had to wrestle an entire match by regular rules, meaning he'll lose on a countout, he'll lose on a DQ, he'll lose by pinfall, he can't use any weapons whatsoever, yet Dolph Ziggler has every advantage in the book. Every rule that Dolph Ziggler breaks is legal. Everything. And he still lost. Then he shows up on Monday acting like a crybaby. I want another chance. It should have been me. You owe me. So now Dolph Ziggler lost that match at Extreme Rules with the stipulation in his favor. Now, the rule is on Monday that Drew McIntyre gets to pick the stipulation, and who the fuck knows, who the fuck cares what it's going to be. Dolph Ziggler lost a match in which the rules, every which way, were in his favor, and he still lost. He is the biggest loser in all of WWE history. So why would anybody coming out of that show think that Dolph Ziggler deserves another championship. Drew McIntyre actually looks less of a man for taking that match against Dolph Ziggler. He looks like a complete pussy for giving in to Dolph Ziggler, knowing that this guy threw everything at him and still is willing to give him a match. That does not make him a fighting champion. That makes him a fucking idiot, if you ask me. Why waste your time when you had everything thrown at you and you still beat the guy? WWE doesn't look at it that way. Instead of building between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they want to do that. Because Randy Orton was preoccupied with the Big Show in the main event. The Big Show in the main event. In the fucking main event of Monday Night Raw in 2020. So now they're going to do it with 3 weeks left to go. I guess there really isn't anything to tell as far as 3 weeks. So what's going to happen after the match? Randy Orton is not booked on the show in any capacity, I don't think. So when Drew McIntyre beats Dolph Ziggler, what is Randy Orton going to do? He's going to come after Drew McIntyre and what? RKO him at the end of the show? Which we all know is going to happen at SummerSlam anyway? The match? WWE's leaving you, at that point, 2 weeks to build this match. 2 weeks. And by that logic, does that really warrant Randy Orton winning the WWE Championship with just a 2-week build? Maybe they prolong it and give Randy Orton the win because Edge ain't coming back anytime soon. Why take the title of Drew McIntyre when you got another pay-per-view to build towards just 3 weeks after that? So I don't think Randy Orton's winning the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. They'll probably give you a fuck finish just because they have to build towards Clash of Champions in September. Because by the time we get the legitimate build to start for SummerSlam, it's going to be 2 weeks for Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. It's not really what I call building intrigue for your main event of the second biggest show of the year. None of it makes sense. They prolonged all of this to give us another Dolph Ziggler match. Because they think it's going to get a ratings boost. Big Show and Randy Orton didn't do anything. If Randy Orton didn't do anything, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre ain't going to do shit as a main event. They also got Asuka and Sasha for the Raw Women's Championship. The ratings have been trending down. It was a 1.63. Could be a 1.5 on Monday. I don't know. Baseball's back. How many of you are going to be watching the baseball season over Monday Night Raw? Give me a break. Where is Austin Theory? Quick update on Austin Theory. Ringside News has learned that Austin Theory's name simply has stopped coming up backstage. It was described as total silence to Ringside News. They aren't talking about him, nor the reason why his name isn't part of the equation any longer. We're not sure what WWE's plan is for Austin Theory. They say he is off television, leaving Rollins with just Murphy in his new group that they're now calling, I believe, the Greater Good. That is their new stable name. The Greater Good. Rollins was actually, I believe, on Raw Talk, if I'm not mistaken. WWE doesn't make things 100% obvious nowadays like they used to when revealing a stable's name. They will insert a phrase into the superstar's dialogue, and they will see what sticks with the audience. This was a tactic that they used for MVP's Hurt Business, and not that is what the stable is called. And now that's what the stable is called. Rollins has referred to his group as the Greater Good in recent interviews. He said things like, if Dominic wants to join the Greater Good, and other such mentions in the same aspect. The Greater Good verbiage crept its way into his script more than once on a few different occasions. In recent memory, Rollins has mentioned the Greater Good in reference to his stable. So again, Rollins has made mention of this in that vein, and it looks like that's what the stable name is going to be. I like the Second Coming better. Just name it after his fucking theme song. The Second Coming sounds better than the Greater Good. I don't even know what the Greater Good is. Maybe that's the tie-in. Maybe that's the explanation for what the fucking Greater Good is. Rey Mysterio needs to be vanquished for the Greater Good of Monday Night Raw. Or Rey Mysterio needs to be vanquished for the Greater Good. Is that the explanation? But WWE didn't really give us the explanation. I don't like it. I don't like it. And Theory, who the fuck knows where Theory is? Theory has so much potential at 22 years old. I mean, having him off TV... First of all, he shouldn't even been on Monday Night Raw to begin with. He should be in NXT. He should be working his way to North American Championship Gold in NXT, first of all. They called him up way too soon. There's no reason why a 22-year-old who just got removed from Evolve and brought to NXT should have been brought up to the main roster. So I don't understand that. That's right out of the gate, number one. Number two, he got thrown into this speaking out movement bullshit, and he got ousted for something. I don't know how legit it is. I don't know if there's any credible evidence against him, but he's off TV. He's off TV. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. Let's check his Twitter. Let's check Austin Theory's Twitter. When was the last time he tweeted? Austin Theory, let's see. The last time he tweeted was June 23rd. So I'm assuming it has to do with the speaking out movement, because he hasn't tweeted anything in regards to WWE or tweeted anything in general. Let me go to his tweets and replies. Nothing. Absolutely zero from Austin Theory. Now, a lot of people were claiming that he could have COVID. Maybe it's a coronavirus issue. I don't think so. I think Austin Theory got ousted for something, and WWE is right now, with Austin Theory, undergoing a full-blown investigation into those, I guess, speaking out movement. Those accusations on the speaking out movement. Because it was with an underaged female. So we don't know. I'll keep you updated on Austin Theory, but people have been asking, where's Austin Theory? Where's Austin Theory? I don't fucking know. He shouldn't have even been on the main roster to begin with. So, Shayna Baszler. Why Shayna Baszler was brought back to WWE Raw. Now, Baszler has been absent from television for nearly 2 months before she returned early this month. It was previously reported that Vince McMahon soured on Shayna Baszler. Why, I don't know, because she's not blonde. She doesn't check the buttons when it comes to Vince McMahon's women in pro wrestling. And he never conceptually grasped that style that an MMA fighter should use in pro wrestling. So that's what he stated. Apparently, that's what was said in regards to Vince McMahon. However, Baszler returned on the July 13th episode of Raw, where she did a promo to put the rest of the women's division on notice. Meltzer noted on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio that Natalya was supposed to attack Kairi Sane and injure her on Monday's Raw. That was the idea as of Sunday. However, Meltzer stated that by watching Monday's episode of Raw, it looks like Baszler will replace Natalya in that role. He says, and I quote, during Wrestling Observer Live, it was explained that Natalya was originally supposed to be Asuka's opponent at SummerSlam. What is with Natalya getting another title shot against Asuka? She's done nothing on the show. Wasn't she in the title match last year at SummerSlam? Who wants to see Natalya in a title program? Nobody. If that is the original plan, keep your original plan. In fact, rip it up and put it in the paper shredder. She has not been around either, Natalya. Now WWE is seemingly going to give Shayna Baszler that role as the Queen of Spades, and she is the backup plan to Natalya. Meltzer says, and I quote, the idea as of yesterday was for Kairi to be injured, and the person who injures her, who by TV on Monday looks to be Shayna Baszler, and Baszler was brought back as a backup to injure Kairi, and it looks like she's going to be the backup because Natalya was originally scripted in that role, but she's been kept off TV. As far as I know, Natalya does not have COVID, but she's been off TV for weeks. Well, she's been off TV. Well, she doesn't have COVID, and neither does TJ Wilson, her husband. So he tested negative. People thought he tested positive. The Wrestle Geeks misinformed everybody. TJ ousted them on Twitter. So maybe she's home is just a precautionary reason. Because if it was under the impression that he did have COVID, and the reason he was tested because he thought he had COVID, then by default, Natalya has to be home because there's no other person in the WWE around TJ more than Natalya. So that may be the reason why she's off TV. But she doesn't have COVID. She's been off TV for weeks, although. Wilson and Natalya were both tested for the virus. They tested negative at the time, but were sent home due to precautionary reasons. Like I said before, Kairi is on Raw. This could be the last Monday Night Raw for her. And after the match, to set up SummerSlam, we could see Shayna come out and injure Kairi, setting up Asuka and Shayna for SummerSlam. I don't know. It's just a thought. It is just a thought for Shayna Baszler and her reintroduction to Monday Night Raw. And finally, guys, I'm going to end with this one. Being that we talked about Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton being the potential for SummerSlam and the WWE Championship. Now, as we know, Edge, I'm sure with his contract, his 3-year deal, he has a very hands-on aspect to what he wants to do. I'm sure WWE gave him that liberty. The other person in WWE that has that very same liberty is Daniel Bryan. They have actually become members of the WWE writing team. Now, Ringside News has exclusive details on this, and they say that Edge and Daniel Bryan joined the WWE writing team a few weeks ago. They have much more creative input than most superstars. Now, they were told that they were given scripts, and they do have access to the grids and notes from meetings with Vince McMahon. They're also a part of the discussion when it comes to what gets pitched to Vince McMahon. Edge and Daniel Bryan also don't have to be in Stamford to get the job done in person. They have a setup at home and much more creative influence on their characters. The two are also in a position where they can pitch ideas for other superstars. Fans of the E&C Pod of Awesomeness, I was going to say EC3. I don't know where my fucking head's at, man. I'm exhausted. Fans of the E&C Pod of Awesomeness heard Edge's various creative pitches. He did have some good ones on there for current WWE storylines during that time when the podcast was around. Now he has a chance to pitch those ideas for real. Now, we all knew Daniel Bryan. We didn't know Daniel Bryan was actually on the creative writing team, but we kind of assumed that Daniel Bryan had a role where he had some leverage of creative control. Obviously, he wanted to work with Gulak. That was all Daniel Bryan. He wanted to work with Ali. He worked with Ali during last year, I believe, in the beginning of last year. That was something that Bryan wanted. And then Bryan and Kofi. Bryan, I'm sure, pushed to drop the title to Kofi. So Bryan's the world champion. If Bryan has some aspect of creative control, Bryan is definitely a part of the reason why Kofi Kingston was the WWE champion last year. So Bryan, I would love to see what Bryan does in a creative role. I really do. Now, Edge is a different story. We don't know what Edge is capable of with the creative process and the power that he holds as far as creative writing. Who knows what he's going to do as he has that power with the Randy Orton storyline obviously still in effect and looming. Whether that happens at the Royal Rumble or the WrestleMania event next year, we don't know. Would Edge be somebody to push for the WWE Championship to come off of Drew McIntyre and be placed in his feud like everybody is speculating it will be? I don't know. But these guys have been around the block enough. These guys are old enough to know who should be pushed, who should be on TV, where the current state of the product needs to go. In fact, I would actually trust these guys more so than anybody on the writing team. More than anybody on Vince McMahon's side. I would trust these guys more to do the right thing. It was just a couple of weeks ago that it was reported Becky Lynch pitched to lose to Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania, and WWE did not listen to her. Becky wanted to lose legitimately at WrestleMania, and WWE refused, downright refused, and said no. That gave me a little bit more respect for Rebecca Quinn after reading that story. Because she knew what was right. WWE clearly did not. How is it that the wrestlers and the performers in this company know what is right and the people who run this show do not? Becky knew what was right. WWE did not. And if that's the case, I'm going to say the same thing about Edge and Daniel Bryan. We don't know what they're capable of. We don't know what they've been a part of. We don't know what they pitched. Clearly, I hope to God not. It's nothing that we've seen on television because everything pretty much fucking sucks. But I would believe them and I would trust them more so than anybody in the WWE, just like Becky Lynch did the right thing or wanted to do the right thing and she flat out was told no. I imagine what Vince McMahon is saying to both Daniel Bryan and Edge. No. You think you're better than me? You're pitching an idea better than mine? Go fuck yourself. I can't see Vince McMahon taking an idea of those guys over his, because he's the end-all be-all. He is the true messiah of WWE, right? He's going to listen to fucking Daniel Bryan? And with Daniel Bryan's situation, I was under the assumption he had a contract coming up. If Daniel Bryan doesn't want to go anywhere, right? He doesn't want to go and wrestle anywhere else. Maybe he's comfortable staying in the WWE. Maybe this is his way for WWE to keep him there. Maybe he's found a new role for himself. Maybe he's genuinely happy being in the WWE. So Daniel Bryan was in the middle of a contract ending, and this could be their way of keeping him in the company, giving him some leverage in creative writing, not only for the roster, but for himself. I don't know, man. I'm getting out of here. I got SmackDown to watch. It's Friday at 7 o'clock. I got SmackDown an hour from now. God help my soul. But if you guys enjoy this podcast, let me know what you think down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. If you enjoyed anything you heard here, sound off down below. Hit that thumbs up. And please make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Very, very important, man. Patreon.com/JD4MNY206. And if you checked out all the other videos on the channel, have not watched them yet, everything you need is linked down below in the description. Go and catch up on some great content right here this weekend from OTS. Guys, I will see you right back here on Sunday for more OTS Extra. I got another one coming up. It's about 30 minutes long. Look forward to that on Sunday evening. And I will see you guys right back here for more Off the Script this weekend, going on into a brand new week of WWE content. Until then, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all later.